Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, we're in June, we're racing towards the end of June, and of course the stamp duty holiday, the big saving, ends at the end of this month. I think it's been very clear there are no plans to extend it as we saw before in March, and indeed many calls to make it a permanent change have been completely rejected. So there is no doubt that we are nearing the end of that, and activity is incredibly fraught. We have so many buyers and sellers desperately trying to reach that end of June stamp duty. Many of them, interestingly, when they first negotiated their deal back at perhaps the end of February, were not planning to make any stamp duty savings. But in this world, you anchor. You hear of a saving that you might get and you start to bank on that money. And I think anybody going into this process who was under offer at the end of February and they heard the stamp duty was extended probably thought, well, we'll definitely get that saving. So it's a whopping £15,000 off your stamp duty bill if you complete by the end of the month. You'll still save £2,500 if you complete by the end of September, but of course that's far less of an incentive as that big saving. But interestingly, Rightmove did some research because we hear a lot of people saying, well, I'm going to have to pull out if we don't make this saving. And you're never quite sure how true all of that is. For some people, there is a definite, genuine pressure on their finances, and they absolutely had gone into a transaction expecting to save that money. But for some, is it just that they wanted to save it? And Rightmove's research showed that actually 53% of people said they would still carry on with the transaction regardless whether that stamp duty holiday was missed or not. And only 4% said they would abandon their moving plans completely. 25% said they probably renegotiate with the seller or try to renegotiate. And 13% said they would look for a cheaper home. So still very much what's driving this boom that we see at the moment is not to do with the stamp duty holiday. That certainly added a bit further fuel to the fire, but it's not the core reason. The core reason that I've kept talking about so much is the changes in how people review what their home has to do with for them following the pandemic, and that search for space, moving out of more densely residential areas to get a bigger garden, no longer needing to be so commutable to the capital, certainly is what's driving most of this activity. So we will keep managing on. I have my wonderful sales progression manager, Millie, who ably keeps a handle on everything and keeps everything pressing forward as best she can. And we'll certainly do all we can to make that deadline met if possible, and just calm nerves. Well, interestingly, one of the things that often we have to talk about as estate agents is to justify the fee that we charge when selling a property. I've just talked about Millie, my sales progression manager, and that's a real value that I think we add here at Madison's. Is our job certainly isn't done when we've got the offer. We chase it very, very keenly to get it over to exchange. But another interesting piece of research came out to show that actually UK estate agents are not bad value. Another piece of research looked at what is charged across the world, and interestingly, the most expensive places in terms of estate agency fee to sell your property is South Africa or Mexico, who charge around 7.5%. However, Australia, hot on their heels, and the USA and Canada, they're all at around 5 to 5.5%. And even many of our European friends over the channel are much more expensive than us, Germany and the likes of those. But interestingly, when you look at our average property price, so our average fee is only about 1.25% in this country, but when you equate that to our average property price, because property is so expensive in the UK, we actually go up the table, but only to number 15 in the table. There are still lots and lots that are far more expensive above us. And so I agree, I think we add quite good value. A good agent should get you a great price that more than justifies that fee and then holds the deal together for you. When you're moving, your property that you're leaving at that point is your much loved family home, but it very quickly just becomes a source of liquidity. It is the asset that enables you to move on, and your agent should hold that deal together for you and mean that you realise your dreams and move on to your next home. And I'm in the guts of quite a few deals this week that are getting a bit sticky, where I've just simply had to step in and try and shimmy everyone along to get to a mutually convenient point where we do go forward. So yeah, good value for us. Policy change is obviously it's changed with tenants this week, you can now evict a tenant. So the government placed a temporary ban on evicting tenants during the pandemic. They always made it very clear that it was only going to be a short-term situation, but anybody falling into rent arrears wasn't allowed to be evicted. Well, that just changed now. You can now evict a tenant under usual procedures. And also the notice period. So it used to be 2 months notice you had to give a tenant. In the depths of the pandemic, it went to 6 months notice, but with effect from the 1st of June went to 4 months. So that's a sign, I think, that things are hopefully easing and returning back to normal here. Well, finally, just 3 properties I want to bring to your attention, all in slightly different parts of the town. First of all, I've got a wonderful converted Baptist chapel on Western Road in Southborough. It's on a band price of between 1 million to 1.1 million, and it is exceptional. The photos really don't do this one justice. You have got to go there and see it and see all its glory. It's beautiful accommodation, really unusual, large vaulted main living area, nice private garden and off-road parking. On John Street, I've launched a lovely 3-bedroom semi-detached Victorian property, guide of 475,000, beautifully presented, lovely little south-facing garden, and offered with the benefit of no onward chain. And then finally, on Berkeley Road, in the heart of the village, not far from where I sit at the moment at all, a really lovely 3-bedroom property, right in the heart of things, in such beautiful architecture that surrounds that area. Guide price of 625,000. Beautifully presented as well, and ready to move into. If any of those are of interest, do give us a call. But I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye.